So much, Bill. Thank you so much, Alexander. I'm Ulrich Obrist. I'm the artistic director of the Serpentine Galleries, and we are so delighted about tonight's event. Big thank you go also to Ben Vickers, our CTO. And before introducing Bill and Alexander and tonight's event, I just wanted to say how happy I am that we can do this event, because I really always thought that I've probably become a curator because of Aby Warburg. Because when I grew up in Switzerland, in Weinfelden, in Turgovia, in the eastern part of Switzerland, there wasn't a lyceum in the city I grew up, so I had to go to Kreuzlingen by train every day, which is half an hour away. And obviously, I would pass by every day this strange house in a park, abandoned house. And one day I asked the teacher at school, what's this house? And the teacher said, this is the house, the sanatorium of the famous Binswanger. And that it's actually not only the sanatorium of the famous Binswanger, but she said there were these extraordinary patients, and told me about the art historian Aby Warburg. And she told me the whole story. And I was so fascinated that I started to read, and I started to basically, I remember the first book was actually the Serpent Ritual, which, and so in a way, really, studying Warburg became a very important trigger for me to then collect a lot of postcards of art and start a kind of a museum, one can say. It was also inspired, of course, by Malraux's imaginary museum in my room at home, and in a way is maybe the beginning of curating. Tonight, we have a very, very wonderful constellation, because we have Bill Sherman and Alexander Kluge with us. Thank you so much, Bill and Alexander. We are gathered to discuss the work of Aby Warburg, the pioneering culture scientist, and also to celebrate the launch of the virtual exhibition of his Bilderatlas, Mnemosyne. So this is a very special event. The exhibition is a landmark project that is a collaboration between the Warburg Institute, the Haus der Kulturen der Welt, and also the Staatliche Museen to Berlin. Thanks to the work actually of these institutions, we have the opportunity, all of us have the opportunity, to virtually explore these two extraordinary exhibitions in Berlin dedicated to Warburg's work and his unfinished magnum opus, the Bilderatlas Mnemosyne. The Bilderatlas is unfinished, and I think that is so fascinating in relation actually to a book also Roman Krzanik has written, which I wanted to show you all, which is a very fascinating book. Roman Krzanik, The Good Ancestor, How to Think Long-Term in a Short-Term World. And Roman basically says that we need to liberate society from this short-termism, and there are 6 ways to think again long-term. Deep time humility, legacy mindset, intergenerational justice, cathedral thinking, holistic forecasting, and also transcendental goal. And of course, in this book, he talks about a lot of projects which have actually been going on for many years, thinking, for example, about Sagrada Familia of Gaudí, which started in the 19th century and is still not finished. And in this sense, this infinite potential actually of the Atlas is a very long durational project, I think enters fully what Roman Krzanik describes here. Given the sprawling genius of Warburg's task involving nearly 1,000 images and his idiosyncratic memory system, the work of the curators of the exhibition have performed nothing less than a miracle. Roberto Ort, Axel Heil, Anselm Franke, and their colleagues have painstakingly excavated the Bilderatlas photographs from an archive of 400,000 images in the Warburg Institute. And they have, by doing this amazing work, given new generations the gift of Warburg's investigations, and we can now all enjoy that and actually study it. Joseph Grigley, my friend, the extraordinary artist, recommended me recently a book by Fari Shams called European Civilization, Peter the Great and the Order of Things. A very, very fascinating book I wanted to recommend, which shows us that Warburg's methodology becomes also a form of institutional critique by using art history against itself. And by doing that, providing us with the important opportunity to consider the role of the museum and the archive and the post-colonial and anti-colonial critiques of such institutions. Firstly, we are now going to be given a tour of the virtual exhibition by Professor Bill Sherman, who will tell us more about Warburg's work and the Bilderatlas. And then we will have a discussion with Alexander Kluge, followed by questions from the audience. Professor Bill Sherman, whom I'm going to introduce first, who, as I have said, holds a historic role in bringing the legacy of Warburg to new generations. To his role as the director of this unique institution, the Warburg, he brings amazing experiences from his work in Renaissance and early modern studies, and also his extensive work in objects, images, and words. I can think of no better person to guide us through the virtual exhibition today than Bill Sherman, who very much is actually realizing this idea that we invent the future with fragments from the past by making his institution in such an incredibly dynamic institution. And also what is so special by actually allowing and bringing in contemporary artists to revisit that archive, which is so unique. And of course, it is a very special occasion that tonight we have the great Alexander Kluge with us, who has worked so much on Warburg's work and method. There are so many dimensions to Alexander's work. It's almost like in superstring theory. Alexander is not only an extraordinary filmmaker, an artist, and poet, and writer, but of course also a curator, and in a way has created a Gesamtkunstwerk over many decades. And in that sense, there could be no one better to talk about the Gesamtkunstwerk of Aby Warburg really than Alexander Kluge. For many decades, Kluge has worked in a very interdisciplinary way, similar to Warburg, cross-pollinating film, text, and sound in a way that asks important political and also philosophical questions about aesthetics, ethics, and the natures of truth and power. The collaboration with Alexander has started about 20 years ago when we met first, and we worked on an exhibition called Archipelago TV, where Alexander pioneered for the first time in Stockholm in a show I curated his 1 minute film. And he told me that it's almost like a sky with this 1 minute film, and he's invented a whole new format. And the collaboration has continued ever since in many artist collaborations we did with Gerhard Richter, with Katharina Grosse, with Kerstin Bretsch, and more recently also with Sarah Morris. It's now my immense pleasure to invite our friend Bill Sherman to give an introduction to Warburg's work and give us his tour. To begin, Bill, could you please tell us a little bit about Aby Warburg, about the Bilderatlas, and how the Berlin exhibitions came about?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Hans Ulrich. Also, let me just echo the thanks quickly to you and to Alexander Kluge. I had an extraordinary meeting with Alexander when I was just starting to learn about Aby Warburg and just starting to think about Aby Warburg. And in a way, I can think of nobody better to join us here tonight in this incredible meeting with Warburg and Serpentine. So such a great collaboration. Thank you both very, very much. Let me just say a little bit by way of background for everybody to set the scene before we head into this virtual tour of these great exhibitions. Aby Warburg, as some of you will know, probably many of you will know, set out to find the roots of the Renaissance period in ancient Greece and Rome, and ended up changing the way we see the world around us. He was born to one of Europe's great Jewish banking families in 1866, and he traded famously his birthright to the family business to his younger brother in exchange for any book he ever asked for. A great trade for us, because this enabled him not only to become a pioneering scholar of art and culture, but also to build a great library devoted to cultural memory itself. And I sit in that library as its director, and I'm going to try, if I can now, with some luck, to show you this library itself. This, by the way, is the Warburg Institute website, which is where you can find on your own the entire virtual exhibition. And so please go through the Warburg Institute website. You see the URL at the top there. And you'll find right on our homepage now, the very first thing is this virtual exhibition. If you double click on it, you get the full screen experience, which is terrific. And what is scrolling behind us here in the background is actually the reading room or what Warburg might have called a sort of space of orientation of the research institute that he built next to his home in Hamburg. He called the library the Kulturwissenschaftliche Bibliothek Warburg, or Warburg Library of the Cultural Sciences. And he used it not only to house the books needed to study his great project of the Nachleben der Antike, or the afterlife of antiquity, but to host seminars or lectures, and even to mount small experimental displays of visual material using his growing collection of images, his little image library or photothek. Now, by far the most ambitious and best known of those visual projects was Warburg's so-called Bilderatlas, or picture atlas, a mysterious map of visual relations and cultural constellations, which he worked on from about 1925 until his death in 1929, when the great project was left unfinished, but documented through photography. Now, only 4 years after that 1929 death, in 1933, the entire institution he created was sent into exile when the Nazis came to power, and it reopened as the Warburg Institute here in London, becoming part of the University of London in 1944 and settling into its current home, the building I'm sitting in, designed by the great British architect Charles Holden at the intersection of Gordon and Woburn Squares in the year 1958. Now, let's go in. At some point, you can take a look at the about the project, because it tells you who made it, who paid for it, all the important stuff. There's also a short video introduction by me, which tells you a little bit, shows you the Warburg Institute's history, shows you the building I'm sitting in and where the materials used for these exhibitions came from. But let's go straight into the exhibition hall in Berlin. And this is the Haus der Kulturen der Welt, the HKW. Its great pregnant oyster, as they call it in Berlin, of a roof, with the banner very proudly shown from the 4th of September to the 30th of November. Now, I should say right away that this exhibition, thanks to coronavirus, had to close a full month early. And so this digital capture of the exhibition is now the only way to see the exhibition, even though it's still sitting in limbo inside this room and beyond these two glass doors. When you come in, you can look at Aby Warburg's biography. There's quite a lot of information about him. There's some introductory panels of display materials there, but the real treat is to see first these short introductory videos by the curators. As Hans Ulrich mentioned, Roberto Ort and Axel Heil, the curators for HKW, also our co-curator, Claudia Wedepol, my archivist here at the Warburg Institute in London. As you go in, you see the entire 1,000 square meter hall of HKW filled with these hanging panels with suspended images attached to them. This is the Bilderatlas seen for the first time. Thank you, whoever said that. Now, I'm just quickly going to say, as we enter the exhibition hall, that this project, which you can see in all of its glory here, was the final project, as I said, and as Hans Ulrich's already mentioned, of Warburg in its last known form. It evolved over the last 4 or 5 years of Aby Warburg's life. The final version, photographed in black and white in these legendary images that so many of us have seen and studied through the years, contains 971 images on 63 large cloth-covered panels. As you can see, we have reconstructed using the original materials retrieved from the Warburg Institute here in London, about 85% of that material. The rest, I think, remains to be found and displayed. Now, the project is named after the Greek goddess of memory, Mnemosyne or Mnemosyne. And it's also important to know that she is the mother of all 9 muses. So there's this connection to a kind of pan art and science worldview. And there's also a connection to the muses and through that to the museum. It is a kind of virtual museum of a project. What it is as an atlas is a map, but a very unusual kind of map. It's a map using only images. So it's a Bilderatlas, an image atlas. The accompanying text that Warburg had planned was never written. And it maps something quite strange, which is both the Renaissance of classical antiquity and the way that animates later periods, including Warburg's own day, and paving the way for considering the afterlife of antiquity even now. This project, the Bilderatlas, in a great feature in Der Spiegel, in Germany's great weekly magazine, just before it opened in August 2020, a great article called this the Holy Grail of the Humanities. And I think that phrase Holy Grail is really appropriate for two reasons. One, it gives you a sense of the legendary status of this project, which has been incredibly influential, particularly in the last couple of decades for scholars, but also for curators, media theorists, artists of various kinds, and even now digital designers. But it's also a holy grail because it was for a long time considered to be lost. It was a lost project. You could only see it in these black and white grainy photographs from 1929. Well, as you can see, it is no longer lost. In 2016, two German curators showed the entire atlas in one room using modern reproductions of Warburg's images. And they put all 63 panels into a single space, but they had the idea that you could find these lost originals. And in that show at ZKM in Karlsruhe in 2016, they experimented with a couple of panels and found enough material to show what they called the original Bilderatlas. Well, at that point, they decided to try to go large, and they approached both me at the Warburg Institute and the director of HKW Bernd Scherer to see if we might consider showing the entire thing from original materials. And as you can see, with about a 6-month delay from coronavirus, we finally succeeded in assembling, mounting, and displaying for about 2 months the entire atlas in HKW. Now, it marks the first time Warburg's working materials have returned to his native country since 1933. The first time his original images have been assembled on their oversized panels since 1929. And indeed, the first time ever that the entire atlas can be seen all at once as a single display. And I think Hans Ulrich can testify to this because he was among the lucky few to be able to see it in person before it closed. I think what has surprised us most in some ways is how well it works as an exhibition, even though it was never meant to be a show of this kind. Warburg's own library that you saw the reading room of before was never large enough to show the entire thing all at once. And it was really a working tool meant to lead to a book rather than an end in itself as a display project. And so I have to say, a little bit nervous before the entire thing opened that it would look a bit dull, just seeing all of these old photos pulled out of file cabinets and put on these boards. And it couldn't be further from the truth. It had a magic and a vitality that I think none of us could quite have expected. So I'm very quickly, Hans Ulrich, going to just show a couple of features to give people their bearings for when they look at this resource on their own. First is just to draw everybody's attention to these buttons at the bottom, which are your navigation devices. If you ever get lost, just hit the home button and it'll return you to these steps that we're standing on right now. You can zoom in with the plus, you can zoom out with the minus. You can also, if you have a device that allows it, you can pinch your fingers in or out to do the same effect. I'm zooming in now, zooming out. You can always go back one step by the last visited. And a very useful thing is this thumbnail at the bottom, which shows you all of the 63 panels like this with extra content on them flagged with these little icons. If there's an audio or video commentary, you see the play, the speaker and play button. And if there's a link to the other exhibition, which I'll talk about in a second, you see the binoculars, and you can jump directly between these two exhibitions. Why don't I quickly say something about that? Because it's quite an amazing opportunity. So since the HKW agreed to show this exhibition, about a year ago, the curators at the Gemäldegalerie, particularly Neville Rowley, our great friend, the curator of Renaissance painting, and Jörg Fullnagel, the great coordinator of all exhibitions for State Museums Berlin, had the idea that they could take advantage of this historic moment and actually gather together for the first time all of the original objects that are shown in the Bilderatlas by Aby Warburg in pictorial form, but show the actual objects and bring them all together into one room. And if you go back to the home here, you can see, in fact, that you can move to the HKW or to the Gemäldegalerie. And if you go to Gemäldegalerie, you'll see a very different exhibition in the Gemäldegalerie forum, Kulturforum, and you can see all in one room 50 objects from 10 different Berlin State Museum collections that are imaged, as you can see in these images from the Bilderatlas, but in original form. And what's quite extraordinary about that is you can move between them directly. And I will show you how that happens. Here you've got this extraordinary image from, I believe it's panel 41A in the Bilderatlas of Laocoon, the priest devoured by or attacked by snakes, by serpents. And the image from Warburg's Atlas is here, the original object, which was actually destroyed in the State Museum collection bunker at the end of World War II, where there was a terrible fire at the end of World War II, but reconstructed in this very poignant form just for this exhibition. And then you'll see the icon of the binoculars. That takes you directly, jumps back to the same spot, which is here on the panel in Gemäldegalerie. So you've just walked 15 minutes across the Tiergarten from Gemäldegalerie's display space back into the HKW exhibition hall, so that you can see what's happened. So fantastic resource to be able to move between the original reproductions of the images and the original objects that they reproduce. Quite an extraordinary opportunity. Now quickly, just maybe to draw attention to one or two key points. As you go in, it's probably easiest just to start where Warburg started. It's not a particularly linear project. Its form is very mysterious. It does roughly go from the most ancient to the most modern, but I wouldn't suggest that you have to follow the numerical order. This is very much up for grabs, but I would recommend that you start here with this first cluster of alphabetically named or labeled panels A, B, and C, because they really give you your bearings, literally. In terms of the orientation in the atlas, it's kind of three archetypal types of mapping. And this first map is maps. And you've got the map of the heavens, the map of Europe showing the trade routes, and then a genealogical map of the Medici family, a kind of family history map. The next one, this panel here, panel B, is a map panel showing in some ways, the sort of master theme that Aby Warburg was interested in, which was the relationship between humans and the cosmos, and the different kinds of forces that affect them, particularly the stars. So the relationship between microcosm and macrocosm, or between body and the heavenly or astral influences, that determined their behavior and fate. That's the second one. And then finally, the third one, panel C, is a very odd but very important panel, not least because it takes the story all the way up to the present. First, it introduces the figure of Johannes Kepler, Kepler was the great Renaissance scientist who discovered that the orbit of the planets was not was not circular but elliptical. And this elliptical form becomes the master form for Warburg. And the ellipse of the display echoes the ellipse of the reading room, as you've seen. And to hear more about it, I'm actually going to play, and I hope you'll be able to hear it. Somebody, Hans-Ulrich, shout if you can't hear it, but I'm going to play the video commentary, which we've added by Claudia Wedepol.
We have the text, but there isn't the audio, Bill. But we have the text.
Sorry, I have a feeling people couldn't hear that. She was speaking the text in German and you saw the English captions, but I will try to fix as I play other things so that you can hear it. But at that point, I think, Hans-Ulrich, I'm going to try to bring you back in and maybe enter into a little bit of dialogue about it. I'll be very curious to hear what you made of the exhibition when you were able to see it and what questions you might have. So,
thank you so much,
yeah.
Bill. And actually, yeah, as you said it already, I had exactly the same experience. It was an amazing experience, truly, as an exhibition. And particularly one thing I wanted to know more about is the elliptical shape we've just been, seeing, and which you addressed, which came from Kepler. Why, could you say a little bit more about why Kepler was so important for Warburg in constructing the system of knowledge?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for Warburg, he's always interested in the relationship of two things in tension. There are always multiple forces at work in some kind of dynamic balance. And I think with Kepler, you have both the classic overarching balance between, let's say, magic or mythology and scientific calculation. So there's the kind of pivot point for Warburg in Kepler's lifetime. And remember, Kepler's mother is persecuted as a witch, but at the same time, he's very famous for helping us to understand the science of the cosmos. So I think for Warburg, he looks for these figures who represent that perfect moment of a pivot or of a balance between two forces. Likewise, in the case of the actual planet, the actual orbit of the planets, he was very interested in the way in which it became known that the planets did not follow that classic cosmological diagram of the circle, and instead moved in an elliptical shape. And so he had this shape of the ellipse. The ellipse is also a really important shape for connecting two things. A circle has a central point, like the foot of a compass that moves around. The ellipse is always about two things being equidistant from each other and two things in relation. And I think Warburg is obsessed with the idea of how one thing relates to another, and he gives us the tools for following that. So that really writ large is what you have in this room, is a bunch of things related to each other, but without the exact signposts or without the exact mapping. And really, you find that map yourself. That was what I was so thrilled to see people doing in the exhibition, was finding their own paths of connection.
It's also why I think people spend so much time in the exhibition. I mean, for me, it was almost impossible to leave.
Yeah.
And I mean, Margaret Mead wrote a text a long time ago about, why do people not spend more time in front of artworks? It was fascinating to actually see, because I think in terms of measuring this exhibition, it's not only the visitor numbers, but it's the amount of time people spend in the show. It was difficult to leave.
Yes, it was. Exactly. You feel like every place you start, you only get a tiny beginning. You really, talk about tip of the iceberg or scratching of the surface or whatever metaphor you like. It's just endless. It's absolutely endless. Even though it's only 971 objects, and anyone with a computer now has access, of course, instantly to an infinite number of images compared to what Warburg himself was working with. But he seems to have picked these clusters that have almost limitless opportunity of inquiry or storytelling or mapping. And I think that was what was so satisfying, as you said, particularly people with their phones. I actually saw one person more or less take a picture of every single object on every single panel. And I wanted to ask them, what are you doing? Why, where is this going to lead you? But I wanted to leave them to their own discovery.
Yeah, obviously they're going to make their own atlas. But the thing right. I was curious also is, because you talked about the cosmos, panel C, the cosmos about Kepler. And of course, that leads us also to panel 22, the cosmic system as a dice ball. And I wanted to ask you about that because we worked at the Serpentine with Suzanne Tristor on a tarot deck where Suzanne organized and started forms of intelligence, knowledge and also experimentation. So the dice board here and the play of images overall signals how important chance is in the Bilderatlas. That's interesting because that's always fascinated me also in relation to Gerhard Richter's atlas, no? The notion of chance in Richter's work and Richter's interesting cage, for example. So it can be said that cards, such as the types you have in the Warburg archives and the artistic production in general, are sites where the confrontation with future contingency can be played out. So the question I wanted to ask you, and that's really something I asked myself in the exhibition, is, what's the role of prediction and divination in Warburg's pictorial construction of time and narrative?
Yeah, that is one of the huge questions, I think, that not only this Bilderatlas, but I think Warburg's entire legacy poses. Not surprisingly for maybe a family of bankers who were involved in Hamburg's great mercantile culture, he's extremely interested in the relationship between fortune in the sense of the unpredictable or the uncontrollable, and the things that we use really growing from Renaissance culture itself, like mathematics and statistics, but also like games, great games and rule books of chance, to be able to control the world and make a fortune, make your own fortune. And I think, again, this tension between being the victim or recipient of forces. And remember, Warburg calls himself a seismograph. This is one of his descriptions of his own really painful sensitivity to the world. But he's also at the same time the great mapper of comparative cosmology and mythology, and the great gatherer together of the kind of visual resources we need in order to study how images shape our understanding of the world. And I think this is the great tension. On the one hand, chance that you can't control, even demonic forces that are out to subvert you. And on the other hand, an attempt to gather together, make order, classify, give a lineage for, give etymology, all of these forms of imposing order on the world. And I think that's, again, the great tension in Warburg's legacy. And you see it all over.
Yeah. We have now an infinity of possibility where we could go next.
Exactly.
But I thought, because you mentioned the word Fortuna, we could maybe go to panel number 48, because the Fortuna panel speaks to the emergence of the individual, emblematized by the merchant in the Renaissance. So the question out of that is if Warburg's method of tracing Fortuna's appearance throughout the centuries to manifest in this peculiar expression, if that can still work for us today.
Yeah.
But of course, today, with Schumann-Bazin Tagescope, and we somehow call it the extreme present, when the recurrence of images is so rapid in the extreme present and so fast.
Yeah.
And if so, if you think it still can somehow work, then who would be the gods and goddesses of our time in this epochal transition?
Oh, that's a really hard question. Let me just quickly unpack the panel a little bit for people before we ask about who the gods and goddesses might be now. You may all be familiar with the so-called Wheel of Fortune. You can see on the left side of the panel. This is an interesting case where the panel has roughly 3 different fields. Very unusual to have a panel that has such kind of clear spatial parameters. A lot of them have very confusing relationships that are actually hard to know, like where's the top, where's the bottom, what's the reading route. But this great image, recurring image of the Wheel of Fortune, which he shows very common in the Middle Ages, is the idea that whoever the king is who's on top will become the person on the bottom. And whoever the pauper or the fool is on the bottom, they will become on the top. And a force beyond our control keeps turning that wheel. We call her Fortuna, the goddess, and she is the one who turns the wheel. We have no control over her. At the same time, you start to get a very different image of the goddess of fortune. And she has this lock of hair, they call it a forelock, coming off the front of her head. And she's connected in this sense with occasion or occasio, the idea that if you're sensitive to it and you jump on the occasion, you jump on the opportunity, you grab the forelock of fortune, and you then make your own fortune. You have lots of these images. The problem is that she is on an unstable ball and she's subject to wind. And so you can easily lose in this shifting, uncertain world. You can easily lose your opportunity. And so this panel shows, again, the idea of someone from a kind of resignation to a cosmos that only affects them, to the idea of grabbing opportunity and making your own fortune. And it's a really great balanced image. Now, I think these images stand for us today. I think part of what's so interesting is that these same ideas certainly drive our vocabulary and our approach to the world today. And I think in many ways, the gods and goddesses of Warburg are the gods and goddesses of us today. We'll see, actually, maybe we should jump to Alexander, because Alexander's film commentary on one of the panels, on panel 57, does this beautifully, where it jumps from the Emperor Maximilian I to the presidents of the United States. And I think you can see extremely clearly how these visual repertoires that Aby Warburg is mapping and playing with are still at our disposal today. So do you think, if it's okay, that
Indeed, it's the perfect transition to Alexander. But before that, I had a last question for you, Bill, which is which I think is very important, because the moment of the exhibition also coincided actually with the launch of this extraordinary book a few weeks ago.
Yes.
I don't know if you can all see it.
I have it too.
We both have it.
We both have.
It's a book by Bärbel Heddinger and Michael Diaz on the work of Marie Warburg. And actually, because we're going to talk with Alexander about cooperation, it's kind of interesting, because I think it's interesting to think about the Mnemosyne Atlas as a Gemeinschaftswerk, because in this book, actually, the authors say that Warburg referred in the Mnemosyne Atlas from 27 to his death. Basically, very regularly, we refer to the work of Marie Warburg, particularly the drawings on Tafel 27, which really underlines the personal but also the scientific importance of these drawings for the work. And the reasons for why he valued them so much have to do with the fact that Mary, with these drawings, in a way contributed to all the major steps of Warburg's research, right? In the lectures, in the research, in the publications, and in the atlas. So it was really great to hear a little bit from you about the importance of Marie Warburg, and to which extent you think also that the atlas is a Gemeinschaftswerk.
Well, I'm so glad you raised this question, Hans-Ulrich, because it's very easy with a figure like Aby Warburg or Walter Benjamin to valorize the sort of solitary male figure. But of course, these are deeply collaborative communities, and Aby Warburg could not have done his work without the cooperation of a number of people, first and foremost his wife. His wife was a very gifted artist, and we now know that because of this great book. I highly recommend seeing her work, and I very much hope that once we at the Warburg Institute have our own exhibition space, that we can mount an exhibition of her work. But she served as a sort of illustrator. And if you see an image like this, which she drew for him, she isn't simply illustrating, she's actually taking his thought and putting it on paper. In this case, he has a theory, which is that the walls of the Palazzo Schifanoia actually represent in rectangular form as wall paintings this traditional circular zodiac. And she draws that. So she renders these wall panels on the rectangular room into a circle for him and translates it into a circular image, which is really fascinating. I should also mention that at the very end of the exhibition, in the final space, and I hope you'll go behind the final panel, you'll see the really crucial figures of Fritz Sachsel and Gertrude Bing in particular. They were both directors later of the Warburg Institute here in London, but they both served as colleagues, friends, and co-workers for Warburg in delivering this, not just this Bilderatlas, but the entire legacy of the study of the history of images that he bequeaths to us. And again, without them, I wouldn't be in this room now. I wouldn't be here able to show this extraordinary Nachlass or legacy that they've preserved. So thank you very much for raising that question. And now I'm going to actually show a film quickly, and I'm going to this time not forget about sharing my sound. I apologize last time. So Alexander, before we bring you in, I'm going to show this short film of yours, which is a commentary, film commentary on one of the Atlas panels. And I will play it now. And hopefully there's only sound at the end. There we go.
Thank you so much, Bill. And this is the moment now of transition. Thank you so much, Alexander, for being with us. And I wanted to begin with the beginning and actually ask you how it all started, how your path came to Aby Warburg's work, how you encountered the archive, and to which extent Warburg inspired you.
Well, it's mainly George de Huberman who taught me, yeah, and showed me this map. Though I already knew it by the Frankfurt critical theory, yeah, who know very well, yeah, this map, yeah. There is this map going till 1929, and then followed, yeah, by the arcades work of Benjamin, yeah. I think it's unique, you see, and we stand as dwarfs on the shoulders of a giant.
Now, as you know from our previous conversations, I'm fascinated by unrealized projects, by infinite projects. And of course, these two exhibitions bring together Warburg's greatest unrealized work. Now, a major project of yours, Alexander, is your yet unrealized arcades project. I wanted to ask you to tell us a little about this and also maybe about the constellation between you, Walter Benjamin, and Aby Warburg's unfinished projects. And if your thoughts on this developed since we last spoke, since the 21st century took this narrative turn.
Well, it's always a tension between very small and very big. And I think it's our duty of our time to refer to what has been done. This map, for instance, yeah, keeps, yeah, continuity to commentaries, to comments, yeah, we can do on our time, yeah. And if we talk of our time, we always talk of all times, yeah. In Bergkarabakh, yeah, you see Sarajevo. If you see Sarajevo, you see the first, second, and third Carthaginian war. You see, this is what this Aby Warburg map teaches. Yeah, there is no time. Yeah, in the way that time fades out and a new epoch is coming. Yeah, there are always like in a ball, yeah, in einer Kugel. Yeah, all times are at the same time assembled. Yeah, and at the same time they are different.
Thank you. And can you tell us a little bit more about where the Arcades project stands right now?
Well, the map of this non-verbal map of Aby Warburg reaches till the year 1929. And this was a moment when Walter Benjamin decided definitely to write his collection or work, yeah, on the institutions of the 19th century, the arcade work, yeah, and this up to his death, yeah, he collected, he brought in, because he said, if we don't understand the 19th century, we won't understand the already derailed 20th century, already derailed in 1914 and 1918, and he did not know in 1929, yeah, that it will be derailed twice. And this work, this perspective, yeah, we can use, yeah, as dwarfs, as I said, yeah, to try to find out the institutions or to understand the experiences of the last century, yeah, to have an amount of tools, critique and mapping and cross-mapping especially, yeah, for our 21st century, which is not yet understood, I think.
Now, in previous conversations, we've also discussed the genre of the fragment and also the Gesamtkunstwerk. Now, the forms and ideas of these run through the work of Aby Warburg Bilderatlas and, of course, also Benjamin's Passagenwerk. I wanted to ask you if you could say a little bit more about the fragment and the idea of the Gesamtkunstwerk, actually in relation to the possibility of building an atlas today.
Well, in times of disruption, a huge amount of reality is already fragmented. And to answer authentically, yeah, with the artistic forms to the time in which we live, yeah, makes it necessary to understand, to observe the differences, yeah, as fragments. Yeah, there are already fragments. Yeah, we don't make fragments from them. Yeah, but we understand them if we don't make posters of them. The word Gesamtkunstwerk uses Richard Wagner, yeah, to make some boast, yeah, to some draft, as if an author can understand times, yeah, and give the epoch names. It is something like a poster he makes, yeah, something like the demons do. In the antiquity, it is said the demons, yeah, are boasting. You can recognize a demon in ancient Egypt by listening to his boasting. On the other hand, the same Richard Wagner is an excellent producer of fragments in music. Yeah, if you fragment the music, for instance, by artillery in the war, yeah, in Vienna, there has been a last presentation of the Götterdämmerung, yeah, while the Red Army already surrounded the city, yeah, and with in the night before the last rehearsals could take place, the opera house had been burned, and now in different cellars, only in communication by ugly sound keepers like Wehrmachtstelefone. Yeah, you heard something which sounds ugly, very fragmented, but it's really the reality of Götterdämmerung. Yeah, and I think in this case it was a good representation of this opera by Wagner. Yeah, damaged music. Yeah, damaged by time. Yeah, and no radio station would have taken it. No concerto house, yeah, would have accepted it. Yeah, but I think, according to the theories of John Cage, this has been best of Wagner, and so we have to have the tension, yeah, between the fragmentary way things exist and the way they can unite and become constellations, can become contexts. Yeah, all what we see, yeah, in this marvelous and unique Mnemosyne Atlas Ausstellung, yeah, shows these are all fragments. You see, yeah, put together, yeah, and this is a kind of modernity, can express modernity.
Now, yesterday, when Bill, Ben, you and I spoke, you said that Warburg would have constellated the panels with music and the sounds of the planets. And we talked with Bill earlier tonight in the conversation about the influence of Johannes Kepler in Warburg's thinking. I also thought of the influence of Hildegard von Bingen. So I was wondering what role, so following what you just said, what role would sounded music have played in the Bilderatlas, and more broadly also in your cosmological and artistic understanding?
Well, there are several aspects. Yeah, one aspect. If you look here, yeah, you see by Kepler, yeah, from Harmonices Mundi, yeah, notations, yeah. He invents that not as an artist, but as a mathematician and as an astronomer. And this is, for instance, the Quintus Vulgaris Ludius against the music of Jupiter, of Mars, of Venus, of Mercurius, yeah, of all the planets. The other day, I took from the NASA the sound of Uranus, the planet Uranus. It sounds extreme, like a chorus. Yeah, it does not sound like music. Yeah, but it gives some input. Yeah, and I think not with the ears only, but with the diaphragma here, the Zwerchfell. Yeah, we can listen to such things. Yeah, and include them. Yeah, therefore, between pieces of art and the way the cosmos exists, there is no difference. And so we have several other different languages. The language we use as a child, yeah, this is very important. This is die Mündlichkeit, yeah, the oral language. Then we have the written languages. We have the O1 digital kind of expression, but we have also the mathematics and the music. Yeah, and the music consists of waves. You see, it's the same waves who govern the colors. And again, at the basis of the elements, you find under the sphere of the atoms, yeah, so you find the quarks, and they are again colors, yeah, colors and anticolors. We cannot see them, yeah, but they exist, and they exist also within us, yeah, in each cell of us. You have a lot of quarks, yeah, 3 quarks for Master Mark, yeah. This was the origin of this name. Yeah, and we can bear it with us, also the virus does.
And of course, the quarks bring us to the next question, something we've discussed often, the relationship between art and science. And you once told me that poetic means collecting. This is why we need curiosity cabinets again, science and art. Art doesn't collect, it has gravitation. Science and art together are something strong again. Now they need to play. End of quote. I wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit more in relation also to Warburg about this play of science and art.
Well, there's a saying of, there's a definition of Novalis. Yeah, he says the absolutely scientific is at the same time the absolutely poetical. And I think this is also a basis, yeah, in which Aby Warburg believes, yeah, which has to do with the Talmud, for instance. In the Talmud, also in the edition of Scholem, yeah, you can of the Zohar, you can read that God was busy for 6 weeks of Goddish time, or how could you say göttlicher Zeit? That means a little bit more than 14 billion years. Yeah, he formed, yeah, and he struck on the alphabet, also was heißt Buchstaben? Letters, yeah, and figures. Yeah, and after these 6 weeks of intensive work, yeah, he founded the world, the planet, and the evolution, and in the last moments, mankind, yeah, in 1 week. See, these are proportions, yeah, and so the knowledges, the sciences, the languages, yeah, and the letters, the figures, all kinds of expression, all tools of expression stick together, yeah, are connected by their nature, yeah, by their origin, yeah. I think this is the main, also the guidance of Aby Warburg, yeah, and it has also to do with Scholem, it has to do with Walter Benjamin, yeah, and well, we could find more than our community here, yeah, who would teach us, yeah, to keep these constellations together. Stella is a name for star, the Latin word for star. And if the stars, the Himmelskörper, yeah, have their relations to each other, they have this relation not by Stangen und Schrauben, yeah, they have it by their substance, the gravitation, by their masses, yeah. And this is a constellation. And so all these pieces you see in this marvelous exposition, you see, yeah? And if you have a dim light, yeah, dann leuchten diese Dinge, yeah. And these are gravitational contexts, yeah, gravitation of meaning. And these constellations, this is our kind of work, yeah. And there is science, music, literature, bildende Kunst. They are all different métiers, yeah. They stay to be different, yeah, but they have tendency to come as an anti-algorithm, yeah, together in our world of algorithms against the 5 big in Silicon Valley, yeah. We need a platform, a landscape, yeah, of anti or counter algorithm, yeah, and this is what such a map like Aby Warburg or the archaic work, especially the collection part, yeah, teach us.
Thank you so much, and I'm sure Bill will have more questions. I have a double follow-up question on technology. The first is related to conversations with Chinese philosopher Yu Kui, and the second one is related to a recent Ignota book, and brings us then also back to Bill. So the first part of the question is about Aby Warburg being called a cultural scientist as well as a cultural historian. As with history, it's clear and also it's an urgent issue when science and technology are founded upon any one cosmology. So Yu Kui actually told us about the concept of cosmotechnics, that each technology, that every system, that every model has certain ontological and also epistemological presuppositions. So we have to rethink, according to Yu Kui, the question of technology from the perspective of multiple cosmotechnics. So the first question, the first part of the question would be, what do you think does this mean for the production and reproduction of an artwork in our time? The second part, again related to technology, is this new Ignota book. It's the Atlas of Anomalous AI, for which there are many conversations and texts about artificial intelligence, edited by Ben Vickers and Kea Lado McDowell, which actually the Warburg is launching on December the 3rd. And it's a book which brings art and science together into a play that actually pays homage to the Bilderatlas. It's an homage to Aby Warburg from a perspective of AI. And in his foreword, Bill gives us the wonderful image of Aby Warburg creating a kind of internet in his small institution in Hamburg, or maybe we could say a pre-internet rather, no? In his small institution in Hamburg. And hence the question, can we think of his ordering system as in fact an operating system? As is Warburg a technology of knowledge?
You ask me.
Yeah, it's both questions for you, Alexander. Yeah.
Well, I'm convinced, yeah, that there is eine Weberin, if you help me.
A Weaver.
Eine Weberin in Byzanz namens Arachne.
Yeah, a Weaver.
Eine Weaver, ja. Und auf den Kleidern, on the cloths she makes, yeah, she paints the complete history, like Aby Warburg does in his constellations. Yeah, he does it as an unique artist, and she was punished by Athena, yeah, and was metaphorisiert, also metamorphosiert in eine Spinne.
Into a spider, metamorphosized into a spider, yeah.
This Arachne spider. And this is a metaphor or the emblem, yeah, of the internet and of the kind of work, yeah, Aby Warburg does. Also the Brüder Grimm were busy, yeah, if not only in the collection of the fairy tales, but mainly in their collection of language, yeah, im deutschen Wörterbuch.
In the dictionary, the German dictionary, yeah.
And all these collections, yeah, sind im Grunde Webereien, yeah.
These collections are weavings.
Von Texten, yeah. Texten heißt Gewebe, yeah. And so the word internet, yeah, for the work of Aby Warburg, yeah, is completely correct, you see, and it's not it's a contrary of what Silicon Valley does, yeah, but it's on the other hand, yeah, the authentic mode, yeah, to make context and tension between realities, yeah, humans, yeah, art and expression in public sphere.
And this, of course, brings us also to the metaphor of the garden, which you often use, no? And the garden for collectivity and cooperation. And you use that for your explorations of history, of the present, of the future. I wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit more about forms of communal working and cooperation as artistic practice and world building, also in relation again, of course, to Warburg.
Well, Leibniz, yeah, had a very interesting concept of the separatrix, yeah, of the borderline, the frontier between things who are contradictions, yeah, not in the center of a being or a human or something is the main element, the essence, but at the skin, yeah, at the border to the next, to the contrary, yeah. And so I believe that if music touches die bildende Kunst, the bildende Kunst touches Texte, the non-verbal map, yeah, like here Aby Warburg's work, yeah, touches the eloquency of books, yeah. Die Bibliothek von Alexandria, yeah, which was burned, yeah, and all these maps, yeah, are relatives, yeah, and therefore I think I'm so convinced that at the point where the differences meet, the métiers don't change. They keep to stay different, yeah, antagonist to some extent, yeah. But this antagonism, yeah, if it meets, yeah, it has an ingenium, is a place of ingenium, yeah, not the me, yeah, not the center of something, yeah, is the center of the genius, but the point where the Gegensätze sich begegnen, gegen den Widerstand entlang des anderen, ja, entwickelt sich das, was wesentlich ist. Yeah. So, and if you take something you mentioned, anomalous AI, yeah, also the book, yeah, you just mentioned it, I think. That's very interesting because we are taught that künstliche Intelligenz, artificial intelligence, yeah, and human labor are differences, yeah. Of course there are contrasts, yeah. Of course there is disruption between the epoch of manual labor, yeah, and industries, yeah, and the new age we live in, yeah. But in the artificial intelligence, there are humans, yeah. Karl Marx says, if you take a knife and cut into a machine, yeah, you will see blood. You see, he's a very rational man. I don't think he neglects physics, yeah, and he knows there is no blood, yeah. But in reality, there is blood. There is a story, yeah, I would like to tell in an abbreviated form. There has been the Vulkanwerft, yeah. This is a big, wir helfen, eine Werft.
Yeah, I don't know the word
shipbuilding
in English.
factory, yeah?
Yeah.
Where all the battleships have been made, which conquered, for instance, Tsingtao in China. And in the 70s of the last century, this factory went into bankruptcy. And the Chinese Republic bought this factory machinery and the people and brought them to Tsingtao.
It's a shipyard in English. I found the word. A werft is a shipyard. Yeah.
They bought this shipyard, yeah, including the experts and the workers, yeah, and put them in. It's inverse to colonialism. To some extent, it's the contrary. Yeah, to bring these things of imperialism, yeah, back, yeah, and to have now a shipyard in Tsingtao in China, yeah. And there, one of the Chinese engineers, yeah, he repeated this Marx sentence and said, yeah, if I cut into this machinery, the blood of those who built it, yeah, come out, yeah. And so the new world of artificial intelligence and our kinds of intelligence, yeah, we geerbt haben, yeah,
that we inherited,
yeah, are again contexts, yeah, nicht? And I think we should describe that. That's really the seed of modern poetry, yeah, to show that. It's the second part of the Bauhaus, which has to be told in this context. Yeah. And so if we continue to work on the Bauhaus, yeah, on the maps of Aby Warburg and on the Arcades works work of Benjamin, we do a good job. See, yeah, and all these purposes are related to each other.
It's fascinating because I just had a conversation a few days ago with Mr. Schellenhuber, who actually is working on the Earth Bauhaus, and it's a European project and also a global project, and it's basically a new form of Bauhaus, starting from a.
And we are very near then to the book of Ovid, the Metamorphosen. Yeah. All these stories, yeah, can be told again and again, yeah. But the position of Ovid is that they change, yeah, while humans are damaged, while disruption takes place. Yeah, there's also a change in the positive sense. The god of the algorithms, Apollo, yeah, who has a certain role at Aby Warburg, yeah, is a very cruel god, yeah. And when he touches Daphne, yeah, this nymph, this nympha, yeah, Daphne is also shown in the constellations of Aby Warburg, yeah. She becomes, she changes to wood, but not to arbitrary wood. It's a wood, and the leaves don't die. Deren Blätter nicht welken. Yeah? And even on the head, on the bald head of the tyrant Caesar, yeah, there are some of these Lorbeerblätter, yeah, but he is not rescued, yeah, because the story, the myth comes from violation. And so these things move, yeah, in the way Ovid tells the stories, in the way people before Ovid, yeah, in the Axis time, yeah, would have told stories, and how we can tell stories or show pieces of this riddle or this labyrinth.
I think that could not be a better conclusion, but I thought, Bill, you might want to add something or do a final statement.
I agree. Yes, I think, first of all, that's the perfect concluding statement, but also it appropriately takes us back to this phrase you used a few minutes ago, Alexandra, the counter algorithm, which I think is exactly right. And I think this question that you posed, Hans Ulrich, is very, very important about Warburg making an operating system. And what's so interesting about the work, and anyone who has the pleasure of working in the library in this building, which I hope you all will, you must come, anyone who hasn't visited, please come and see this extraordinary body that you move around. It's like working in someone's brain. But what's incredible about it is it takes you to what you don't know. I think what's so important about most of the algorithms is they take you from what you do know to what you do know, and even tell you what you want and what you should buy. What Warburg tells you is, here's something you know. You don't know you know it already, but you do know it. It's this myth from Ovid, it's this story from Livy, whatever it is. And it takes you to what you don't yet know. Right. It's about discovery, and it's an algorithm that's very different from what the internet as it has grown now is designed to deliver. And for me, that's one of the great lessons about Warburg's Atlas. And maybe 100 years later, we make the internet that we need, not the internet that we've got. And I think this is the hope that I have listening to Alexander is, you know, it's a history project 100 years ago, almost, but it's a way for the future. And I think it's very much about this idea of an operating system that's a counter algorithm. And so I love that very much. And I want to thank you, Alexander, for sharing that idea. And to thank you, Hans-Ulrich, for hosting this fantastic discussion. And I really quickly, if you don't mind, I just want to say that there is this great event on the 3rd of December that again is a collaboration between Warburg Institute. Now I always say Warburg whenever I'm speaking with German, the Warburg Institute and the Serpentine, which is to launch both the book form of the Bilderatlas, the huge lavish facsimile that we made for this exhibition, which just won Apollo Magazine's Book of the Year. Very happy about this. And Ben Vickers and Kenrick Alado McDowell, amazing book called The Atlas of Anomalous AI. It's called Atlas, and it's 5:30 on the 3rd of December. Please come and join us for that. But also, please just everybody explore the resources of this amazing virtual exhibition, because it's so sad in a way that it got stopped early, but we now have it in virtual form, which in a way is the right form for it. It's a very appropriate form. And the last thing I want to do is just say that I'm very happy that as of today, it's now official that there will be further venues for the exhibition in Germany, first at the Bundeskunsthalle in Bonn, and then in Hamburg, in Dachterhallen. We will have an exhibition twice at least in Germany in the next year. So for those of you who were not able to travel to Berlin to see the exhibition the first time, you now have at least two. And now finally we bring it, Hans-Ulrich, back to London, and we figure out how to play with it here, don't we?
Exactly. But thank you so much, Alexander. And thank you so much, Bill. And I had a last question for Bill, because of course, many artists have been participating and listening tonight to our event. And I wondered, you know, if artists want to engage with the physical archive, how is this organized? Can they visit, or how does it work?
Again, my dream is to create a Warburg Institute that brings in discovery and making of all kinds. I want digital designers in residence. I want translators in residence. And above all, I want artists in residence. This is the vision for the place. It has to keep itself growing in this way and extending in this way. But I need help to do it. I'm at the moment unable to sponsor or fund artistic projects. And so through collaboration with people who are able to help, we will be able to build these great opportunities together for artistic engagement. I'm really open to these ideas, as you know, and I continue to look forward to working together with everybody. But the first way to approach is just to contact me directly. And of course, at the moment, the Institute is struggling with the coronavirus and has a very small operation, although the library still is open a few days a week for a few hours, which I'm very happy about. But this will pass, and we will move back into a world where we can play together in person. And I very, very much look forward to that. So welcome to everybody who wants to do interesting work with Warburg and show extensions of the Atlas, because the Atlas is inexhaustible and universal, but it's also quite limited. It's only 971 images. Think of all of the other constellations, all of the other stories that are still there.
Is a well, you see? And you can go into the well, into the depths.
Into the depths. So we go to the depths together. But thank you again, Alexander.
Let's go into the well. Thank you so much, Alexander. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.